Rams. Let's get over to our friend Mike Missinelli, Philly legend. By the way, the post-game show is just superior. Mike, how you feeling first, brother? You all good, man?
Yeah, I'm good. I've recovered. I'm still a little weak. Yeah, that COVID hit me last week, so it's funny how it lingers. But my symptoms are gone. It's like weak in the legs a little bit. But yeah, this city's on fire, man. I mean, listen, tonight I'm going to show you. I got my popcorn ready. I got the popcorn ready already because, like, tonight the Sixers open, and a half hour later the Phillies are in the NLCS, and the Eagles are 6-0, and they're not even the big story.
I know. I mean, look, and what the Phillies have done by getting an interim manager and running all the way to the NLCS and taking down the Braves. I've said this before about the Braves. John Sherwold's put a system in there where, Mike, their starting pitching and their bullpen has always carried that franchise across the plate. And for them to take them out like this, with all the adversity that they went through, they bonded, they melted together. I always thought that starting pitching, and I don't think that the Phillies have really had good starting pitching since the Charlie Manuel days because of the minor league system. However, those arms have really come through for them, haven't they?
Yeah, in a short series, Dan, they've been like amazing. Like Wheeler lost to the Braves, believe it or not, they lost that game. But in a short series, they've been tough to beat because of that. Now, this is a 7-game series, so we'll see. They may have some problems in game 4 and 5, and we'll see where they choose to go with that. I mean, who could have figured it? Like they weren't that far away from getting smacked down by the Washington Nationals in a must-win situation. And then they rallied and they won the rest of that series while Milwaukee was kind of giving it away. And all of a sudden they're in, but they've looked like a different team. They had this sweat. Like, they took the Braves hard.
Yeah.
You see that series with the games that were here, and I don't know if the Braves were resting on laurels, whether they just got spooked by the crowd, but the Phillies just took it to them. They hit, the Braves didn't hit. Marsh hit that home run to make it 3-0 in the game Saturday, and I'm looking at the Braves players, and they're going, oh, man. You can just tell their hearts, their blood was dropping out of them. I never seen anything like it. So if the Phillies can keep that swag, that's the key. Like, can they keep the swagger that they've shown in the first 2 series? The different series, they go to the West Coast now. Can they maintain that kind of level? But they certainly look like a team that has the look. The team that you least expected is going to surprise everybody and get to the World Series. It's hard to believe, really.
It is hard to believe. And I'll say this to you, that Padres team that A.J. Preller has put together, I mean, I never thought that I'd see a better third baseman or as good a third baseman when it came to the glove. Now, I'm a little bit younger than you, Mike, so I'm going to say Schmidt instead of Robinson. But I'll tell you something, dude. That Manny Machado, he can dig it. This dude can dig it, and he can hit it. He is a great ball player.
The way this has played out, the 2 marquee free agents at that time that both of them were signed, Machado and Harper. Now they're meeting to play in a World Series. So I guess it does mean something that you pay a lot of money for a superstar that can be your buoy. But the Phillies haven't got anything from Kyle Schwarber at all. And yet their offense, they hit. They had 13 hits without Kyle Schwarber even contributing. And like this thing is carried over with them, where guys like Marsh or Bohm or Segura, JT is a good player, but like these guys are getting carried along, like Stott with a great at bat in the series. So I don't know, man. I can't. This is like a 50-50 series with San Diego a slight favorite, and probably because their bullpen's a little deeper than the Phillies. But I can't count them out.
No way.
I've never seen listen, I've been covering sports in Philly for a long time. I've never seen a season where the Eagles can be 6-0. They've established themselves as the best team in the NFC. Nobody's even talking about them right now. And they beat Dallas. It's like, okay, everybody's happy, but this Philly thing is taking over.
Absolutely. Mike, let's go to the Eagles now, 6-0. Your takeaways so far from the start on what you've seen.
They're the best team in the NFC. I don't know if they're the best team in football, but here's the thing I see about this team that's different than most teams that I've seen that get off to a good start here in Philadelphia. They're unslippable. Like, they don't slip. Sometimes the team in the NFL, and you know it better than anybody, their biorhythms are down. They play to a level that's not their level, but the other team's level. This team doesn't do that. They have an answer for everything. And like they came out guns blazing. They get the 20-0 lead. They slack a little bit. This has been a tendency in the second half. I don't know why that is, but probably playing a little bit soft and not wanting to get beat with a big play. That's Gannon's philosophy. And it's 20-17, and they need a drive, and they do it. It's like whatever they need, they do it. They go on this long drive. They run the football because now they're Micah Parsons is going crazy against a backup right tackle. They go, okay, let's go. We run the football. And then Jalen Hurts makes this play where he reads the blitz, backed off, and he's got a 3rd and 4. He's okay. They backed off. The lane's wide open. He runs for a first down. He made a couple of quarterback sneaks for first downs. This team does whatever it takes. And it's a different personality of teams that I've seen in the past.
You know what, Mike? And this is exactly what we've been talking about today. And I say this to you. I don't think that Jalen is an elite quarterback, but I think he may be the most unique. And this offense may be the most unique because they only really, if you look at the starters on the offensive side, you probably have the best player at one position, the right tackle, and Lane Johnson. But when you do it this way, Mike, is there a better duo of wideouts in the NFL? Isn't that an elite group of wideouts with your tight end? Yes. Is the offensive line elite? Yes. The way that they win, like you say, it's like 6 different chapters in the book on how they've won. So to me, that makes a nightmare matchup because you don't know what you're going to get. And this kid Hurts, he thinks his way around the game. I don't know about you, but I thought he threw for 350 yards, but he only threw for 155 yards, but they were meaningful.
His numbers were very pedestrian, but he made plays that made the difference in winning the game. And, I don't even look at the numbers anymore that he puts up. I look at what they need to do in that particular situation to ward off the other team and win. They do. They're extremely well coached. They seem to have every answer, and it's pretty interesting, pretty refreshing.
It is. Hey, Miles Sanders is 4th in the league in rushing, Mike. I mean, he really, guy doesn't get enough credit for what his impact has been on play action, keeping drives going himself. It was one of, I thought, priorities that you wanted as you got into the bye. I don't want Jalen Hurts to be my leading rusher like he was a year ago. I want my back to be my leading rusher, and he's really put a show on, I think.
No, you're right. And he had 71 yards on Sunday, quiet. Now, you never figured he had 17 yards, but he'll grab a 13, he'll grab an 8 and a 7. On that drive that I'm talking about, that's exactly what happened. They ran the football. He kicked it off with a 13-yard run, and all of a sudden they're going, and they get down the field. And listen, Dallas, Mike McCarthy helped them out a lot in that game. I've never seen. I mean, that's coaching malpractice when CeeDee Lamb looks like he's got a first down. They don't slow the game. They don't call a timeout to look at it. They don't throw a flag. And then he decides, all right, with less than a yard, he does a rollout pass.
But Mike, that's always been problem with him, has been his game management at 2 minutes going at the end of the game, at 2 minutes going into the half. It's always been a problem for that guy. His timeout management's been brutal. Oh, it was a year ago? He said, I didn't know it was 3rd down or 4th down. I'm like, guy, someone's got to be in your ear, Junior.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, like, aside from that, where they got a break, and they allowed, their special teams haven't been that great, the Eagles, so they let that kid run that kickoff back and set him up for some points by the end of the half. But listen, I'm trying to look at the schedule. I'm going, where were they struck? The personality that they have set out there, that they're not going to be this team that plays down and slips and looks terrible. So where are they going to lose? And it's hard to even fathom that, right? I go, could this team be 15-2?
Injury, what's going to cause an injury? An injury is going to cause a loss.
Probably. I'm looking at
Not
where it could
play.
be, though. Like, do they have problems with Steelers coming out of the bye? I mean, I don't know. Green Bay doesn't look like they're viable at all.
I thought the Jets owned them up front.
Yeah, at the Colts. I mean, who knows what the Colts are going to be by then? And they get this upstart Giants team, which I match up both these teams. I know the Giants are they're riding high right now, but they're not the Eagles.
No.
So I mean, I don't know. Maybe they lose one to the Giants. Maybe they lose another to the Cowboys. Maybe one of Green Bay and the Colts. They're decidedly the best team in the conference, which is not saying much because the conference has played down a level. But still, you can't deny they're the best team right now.
I think they're the most complete roster. Mike, on the other side of the football defensively, I said this. If you take the Washington game away, they're kind of trending right now to have like 32 sacks, 33 sacks, and that's just a tick up from last year where they were 29 sacks, and that's not very good. So again, to me, the pass rushing, could that be an area that, maybe you see Howie, would he be there at all to go, is there somebody out there that might help put on the other side of Reddick? Because I think they're not getting home enough. Now, I do think quarterback hits matter, pressures matter, and that's been pretty decent. So give me your thoughts on how you see that.
No, I agree. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve that way. I think he still believes in Sweat, and he believes in Reddick, and Brandon Graham had a big moment. I think this is more of a Gannon thing. If you look at the Dallas game, they didn't get home. They've been really rushing 4, but their secondary was all over the place. I mean, they covered everything.
Yep.
So that goes hand in hand. You can put pressure on the quarterback to help your secondary. The secondary is playing lights out. They can get away without pressure, and he doesn't like pressure because obviously he doesn't like to give up a big play. He does it a handful of times. In Philadelphia, you scream for more action. I'm doing this show with Seth Joyner. He's driving me crazy every week about Gannon not being as aggressive as he should be. So, maybe that has to change, but it hasn't hurt him. Not getting pressure, consistent pressure on a quarterback. They did get some sacks the week before, but he plays it safe, and he's trusting his players, and his secondary's been flying all over the place. So right now, I can't complain about anything.
Do you think they're too analytical when it comes to how they put these game plans together? And that's why you see trends the way you do. Mike, in the second half, this is how I see Gannon. Gannon brings some pressure. They have some Vic Fangio twist that you see because you saw him in Denver. And then all of a sudden, when they get the lead in the second half, then he starts playing off and he plays everything underneath. He doesn't want the plus 25 plays to beat him because he doesn't think the quarterbacks that they're playing. He knew this, and so did you, Mike. You knew on Sunday Cooper Rush is not driving a football team 13, 18 plays in a drive when they only asked the guy to throw the ball 16 times a game. They wanted him to throw the ball. I want him to have the ball. Patrick Mahomes, that's a different conversation. So they're scheming to these quarterbacks going, hey, your quarterback's not going to beat us. And that's why he plays that way. Is that fair?
Yeah, that's fair. I just think that's his general philosophy. They're obsessed. They're obsessed with explosive plays. One on offense to get them, and one not to not get burned by them. And so he looks at it like, okay, we're in control of this game. It's 20-0. There's no reason why I have to take risks here. And Cooper Rush probably plays into it. Now, that hurt him a little bit because they made it easier for Cooper Rush by running the football and getting some short passes to get the kid's confidence up. Listen, I don't know. All I know is that Seth Joyner screams every week about that guy needs to apply more pressure, and he's probably right because if you pressured Cooper Rush, maybe you pressure him in more interceptions. I mean, he looked terrible. He looked out of his element in that first half, and they weren't even getting that much heat on him. So
well, Mike, you're a pretty good prodder too. I'll tell you that. If there's like 6 buttons in front of you, you know which one of those buttons to push on Seth.
Well, yeah, but he's like, listen, he knows his personality. He's an ultra aggressive guy, and he played under coordinators that were ultra aggressive. And I get where he comes from, but I sit back and go, Seth, they're 6-0. They do everything they need to do. Like, is he disappointed they didn't win 35-12? Like, I don't understand it. I look at this team, and I've seen a lot of rotten teams, and I've seen some good teams that will let their foot off the throttle stupidly and let an inferior team outplay them. This team doesn't have that personality. So I go, this is different. And I'm okay. The way they're winning games, I'm not going to sit here and quibble about little things that they don't do. He's worried about, well, if they play a high-caliber team, it's going to hurt him in the end. And I go, where's the high-caliber team?
Yeah.
Like, I get it. Like, in the playoffs, maybe we'll have a complaint. This looks like a 15-2 team to me, Dan.
Yeah, agreed. They won't face a higher quality team until they get to the Super Bowl if they're fortunate enough to. Mike, couple last questions for you. Let me ask you this. If you had to win a ball game, 60-minute football game, would you take Donovan McNabb or would you take Jalen Hurts?
Oh my God. Listen, I can't sit here and say I take Jalen Hurts. Donovan McNabb's the best quarterback in franchise history. I get it that he came up small in big games, and this is why I have to factor this in. If Hurts had just a little more this tenure, but I can't sit here and say I would take him over Donovan. I think that would be disrespectful if I said that. But I know there are a lot of people in the city that would say that now.
If you had to have one coach your Super Bowl for you, would it be Andy Reid or Doug Peterson?
Man, these questions are killers because it would be stupid if I didn't say Andy Reid. But like Kansas City, Andy Reid was a little different than the Eagle Andy Reid.
I think they're different people too, Mike.
But and both of them went 4-12. I gotta go, Andy. I'll take Andy. I'll take it. You're talking about Andy of 2022?
I'm talking Andy, the Andy you want to see.
The Andy of 2012, maybe I don't take. The Andy of 2022, it's a no-brainer.
What's made him a different head coach, in your opinion, Andy Reid, in Kansas City than what he was in Philly?
I don't know.
Is it Patrick Mahomes only?
I think he's learned a lot. Like he's always been a player-friendly coach. Players like him. I don't know what it is. Maybe better personnel. Maybe there's less pressure on him out there to deal with things because it was tough for him here. But when people were just, he had all these personal problems, and then the heat was on him media-wise, and they had failed at NFC title games. So there was all this shrapnel that was coming at him here. So maybe he went there. He got lost in that Midwest thing, and it made him review things and be a little easier and get a little smarter and get a little more mature. I don't know.
If you had to win one ball game, 60 minutes, and 2017 Nick Foles or 2022 Jalen Hurts, who's your quarterback?
I wasn't a Nick Foles fan. And I was like, I always swam against the grain when it came to Nick Foles. I just thought he caught lightning in a bottle. But listen, he won a Super Bowl. He performed
MVP.
A Super Bowl MVP. He went head to head with Brady. I got to give it to him. Listen, Jalen has really won me over, but not to the extent that I'm going to put him over the best franchise quarterback in history and a guy who won the Super Bowl. How's that?
Two last questions here. Nick Sirianni. Have you, because I got to tell you, man, when I saw the planting of the seeds and the stupid press conference, I was like, I don't know who's going to have a shorter life. I think it's Urban Meyer, and I was right. But I said, I don't know if this guy's going to be far behind here. But he was fired. Matt Rule was fired, and this guy here is in the running now for the coach of the year. Are you surprised?
Yeah. Yes, I really am. I felt the same way you did. I wondered how he even got the job when he's different now. He's changed. I think he's learned the landscape a lot about the NFL, but he was really Harry High School when they hired him. And I'm thinking, if I'm the owner and Harry High School comes into me to interview for my head coaching job, I can't go with Harry High School. So I don't know how he got the job in the first place, but they saw something that I didn't, I guess. And he's turned out to be a really steady hand for this team.
Mike, do you know that since he handed the offensive play calling over after 2-5, the Eagles are 15-4?
It's hard to believe.
They're 15-4.
Shane Steichen's got to get some credit, I guess.
That's incredible, don't you think?
Yeah.
That was a decision that they made where they went, hey, look, the head coach's favorite quarterback is Phillip Rivers. He doesn't really do the RPO style. This guy, Shane Steichen's taking this guy and customized an offense around him. And 15-4 during the regular season games is incredible. Last question.
That is pretty amazing. Now, I will say this year, like if I'm an offensive coordinator for this kind of personnel, I can't lose, really.
No.
Because the slant is unstoppable. No matter if you're throwing to A.J. Brown, which is like totally unstoppable, or Devontae Smith, who gets to the spot really quickly, and Goddard gets open all the time. So if your offensive line's together and you got Miles Sanders and those three guys, you should be able to move the football. And they have.
Final question for you. We've had Doc on the show. I love Doc. Okay, he's been a friend since he was in Orlando. Boy, I'll tell you something, though, man. Outside of Boston, the rotation thing has always been an issue for me. I've told him, I've been critical of it, how he shrinks up a little bit in his rotations in the postseason, and I think that always hurts him. Tell me how you see him with this talent. Are you more concerned about Doc Rivers this year or James Harden?
It's funny because I was talking about this today on my podcast. Their look is completely different when it comes to depth, and that's what I think held Doc back a lot last year. I also thought before they added these pieces on their bench that Harden would have to turn back into Harden. I no longer think he can turn back into Harden. I think I've been misguided to think he's going to be the 35-point-a-game James Harden, but I don't think he has to. Because the way that they've shaped this team now, like I'm looking, okay, their starters are Harden, Maxey. I got a little problem defensively with that, but they sub in defensive lightning. Like they'll sub in DeAnthony Melton and Thibault, who are number 1 and number 2 in the league in steal rate in the NBA, which they didn't have. Now they can afford to use Thibault lesser minutes, but only in spots where he can affect the game defensively.
They're better perimeter-wise, Mike, defensively with that lineup.
Totally. DeAnthony Melton, Daniel House, Niang, I'm not a fan of, but he goes, they pushed everybody down on the depth from the bench, and that's really going to help. Montrezl Harrell comes in. So they've got 5 guys. Before I even get to the Shake Miltons and the Furkan Korkmazes or the Paul Reeds, I've got 10 guys. I've got 5 guys off the bench that they didn't have last year. So I think that, listen, they're a fashionable pick to win the whole thing. So we'll see where they land. I think that right now I rank them second in the Eastern Conference behind the Bucks. But the depth makes so much of a difference in the NBA.
You think they're better than Boston?
They were just on dead batteries last year trying to get output from bench guys. And now those guys they're outside the top 10.
You think they're better than Boston, right? You think they're better than Boston? You think?
Yeah, I do. I think Boston's got a lot of turmoil, and
yeah,
I think they're going to take a notch down right now. I think it goes Milwaukee, Sixers, Celtics, Heat, probably in that order. Yep. I was actually extrapolating the playoffs to that. They're going to play. They're going to play Toronto Raptors. It's going to be 2 versus 7, and then in the second round they have to play the Celtics. The Celtics will beat the Cavs, who I think will finish 6th. So that 3-6 matchup. So it's exciting, man. Sixers open the season tonight, Dan, and then baseball, and the Eagles laying low at 6-0 with a bye. It's a beautiful time here.
Absolutely, man. A lot of content, a lot of great stuff. Mike, you're always so kind to me, man, and I thank you very much for coming aboard and doing this for me, man. Anytime you need me for anything, let me know, please. I'm always there for you. Thank you, Mike. Don't forget, everyone, post-game show, too. Every Sunday, not this Sunday, but every Sunday after Eagle games, legendary Mike Missinelli will be there with Seth and the crew and D-Gun, and we look forward to that. Thank you so much, Mike.
Thanks, brother. Talk to you.
You got it. That is Mike Missinelli, and we so appreciate it. Don't forget, hit the like button. We appreciate everybody coming aboard. We'll expand on a lot of stuff that we just hit on with Mike here. Don't forget our friends at Morgan & Morgan, where the fee is free. Folks, if you're hurt or injured on the job, this is the only law firm to call. For the past 30 years, they've collected sums of $13.5 billion for their clients. They don't get paid unless you do. With over 800 attorneys in offices in Philly, New York, and in Florida, Morgan & Morgan is there to defend you no matter the size of the case, and they will not be intimidated. 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. The call is free. The consultation's free. And do me a favor. When you call Morgan & Morgan, tell them Big Sale sent you.
Many times when people are injured at a place of business, they don't realize